Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook and today for 39 I'll be looking at a result against Watford by bringing my match review player rankings and my man match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce, Luka Milivovic, Jeffrey Slupp and Jason Punchard after the game. So let's begin. An own goal by Troy Deeney proved to be enough for Palace to claim a third consecutive win and clean sheet, as Sam Allardyce's side's brilliant form continued at the expense of Watford. Having scored 4 in his previous 3 games against the Eagles, the visiting captain managed to get on the score sheet again this time round, but it would benefit the Eagles as he inadvertently nodded in a Cabaye free kick on 69 minutes, in an ugly encounter which brought about another beautiful 3 points for the Eagles. An added bonus was a third consecutive shutout for our home defence that was barely troubled, also claimed 3 consecutive league clean sheets for the first time since April 2014, and that moved Sam Allardyce's team further away from the drop zone. The first half was a tepid affair, with both teams cancelling each other out and nullifying the majority of attacks. Because of that, chances were few and far between in the opening 20 minutes. Only a Mamadou Sakho header which flashed over the bar and a 30-yarder from Niang straight away in Hennessy proved to be the only early excitement for those in attendance. Things didn't get too much better during the rest of the first half, but later on in the first 45 minutes, Wilfried Zaha shanked an effort into the White House Lane end from the edge of the area, and Barame was further off target with a volley from just outside the D before referee Martin Atkinson called time of proceedings and the teams regrouped in the changing rooms. The 15 minutes breather seemed to do both teams the world of good, and soon after the restart, Cabaye blasted a shot from 25 yards out and saw his stinger fly narrowly over. But just after the hour mark, the first real spark of the game saw Andros Townsend force his way down the right and whip in a fine ball for Wilfried Zaha at the back post. But after some trickery, he couldn't quite find the top corner and sent his effort over Gomez's bar. However, the opener finally arrived, and it kept in fashion with the rest of the 69 minutes of the tugged encounter. After Palace won a free kick on the left, Cabaye swung a delivery into the box and attempted Troy Deeney to head it to safety for a corner. However, it clipped off the base of the post and found its way into the net to hand the Eagles the lead in the scrappiest of circumstances. With a previous lead to protect, Hennessy was called into his first testing of the afternoon when Decore let fly from 30 yards and the ball bounced out in front of the Welshman. However, he did well to turn it past his post and keep his clean sheet intact. But Palace could have sealed the game with 5 minutes to go when Townsend again scrambled down the flank and picked out Zaha in the box once more. The winger's volley was bravely blocked by Craig Cathcart, and the rebound spun towards Cabaye, who scuffed the volley fractions wide. With the margin so tight, Palace just had to clinch on to their points, and in injury time they just managed to do so when a long ball by Cathcart found Deeney, who beat Hennessy to the ball, but Niang lobbed the ball over the bar in the final action of the game, as the Eagles boosted their survival chances no end. Crystal Palace secured a hard-fought 3 points with only their third home win of the season, the first time this season that the club has had consecutive wins at home. While Palace didn't have a shot on target all game, the defensive performance and midfield resilience ensured that the Eagles would continue their good form. Now for some positives from the game. Sam Allardyce has repeatedly made the case that Palace should respect the point, key to which is keeping clean sheets. Palace now have had their third clean sheet in a row, bearing in mind that Alan Pardew's side only secured 5 in 38 games. With clean sheets come wins. Palace players can now see the value in them. Now for some negatives from the game. Christian Benteke's lack of confidence in front of goal is troubling. The striker had a number of opportunities to take a shot, but due to his lack of incisiveness, he allowed Watford to recover and tackle him. Allardyce has made a point of saying that Benteke's return to goal-scoring form would help the club's relegation fight. It may not have been pretty, but Crystal Palace boosted their chances of Premier League survival with an 1-0 win against Watford on Saturday. Watford skipper Troy Deeney scored in his own net midway through the second half, in a game of few chances, with the own goal proving to be the difference between the two sides in a half-fought contest at Selhurst Park. But what did we learn from the game? Here are 5 things. Number 1. A lack of quality. This game should have had a real cut and thrust about it, given the respective positions of the two sides, but it ended up being a poor spectacle, with a real lack of quality on show. Fortunately for Palace, they had a moment of good fortune when Deeney headed into his own net to seal the contest. Number 2. Easing the pressure. This was a big win for Palace, with games to come against Chelsea, Southampton and Arsenal in the space of 9 days after the international break. It was vital to continue the momentum, and picking up these 3 points here has lifted the pressure for those games, with Sam Allardyce admitting himself that it would be a bonus to pick up results when they were not expected to. Number 3. Kyler is back. After several weeks away, popular Crystal Palace mascot Kyler the Eagle was back at Selhurst Park, although some fans commented on social media that she seemed to be somewhat subdued, which turned out to be the telling of the game for large parts. Number 4. No love lost between Zaha and the Watford fans. It's fair to say Wilfried Zaha is not the most popular player with Watford supporters. There was a bit of history in previous games between Palace and Watford, including Zaha winning a penalty that helped the Eagles return to the Premier League in 2013. And of course there was the incident with Harry the Hornet in the fixture at Vicarage Road on Boxing Day. He was a constant threat for Palace here too, although Watford fans were quick to chant at him every time he went down under a challenge. And number 5, the frustration continues for Benteke. It was another barren afternoon in front of goal for Christian Benteke, who rarely looked like scoring for the Eagles. He had 1 or 2 chances towards the end of the game, but looked short of confidence, and after 1 goal in his last 13 Premier League games, he badly needs another to give him a boost. So now you've had the match review, we're now going to move on to the player rankings. But before we start, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at eCrystal Palace for all the latest news. And for all you Facebook users out there, don't forget to check out our Facebook group so you can join in with the latest discussions, read the latest news and post your own opinion. So like I said, if you're on social media and you do want to get in contact with us, then of course you can follow us on both Twitter and Facebook, and you can find both these accounts by using the at eCrystal Palace. And obviously I would highly recommend you do follow us on both of these pages, because we do regularly update them with the latest news. So if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, and that is including transfer rumours and things like that, then of course do give our account a follow as well. And obviously we do post news regarding transfers, but also, you know, after the game we do post manager and player interviews. So if you do want to hear what the players had to say after the game, then of course we'll post links to the articles where you can, you know, hear what they had to say. And another thing that's really quite popular at the minute on Twitter, and that is Twitter polls. So if you do want to vote in Twitter polls, then do give us a follow, because every few days we might run a Twitter poll just to get everyone's opinion on something what may have happened in the game. So for example, after the Watford game, we put out a poll asking for your man of the match. We asked how many points you think we will need to stay up in the season. It's polls like that which we want you to get involved in, so that you can have your opinion heard, and, you know, as a collective we can see what the majority of fans, you know, think about the club. But obviously if you are on Twitter and Facebook, then of course follow us, but especially if you are on Facebook, I personally would highly recommend the Facebook group, which I'm actually a member of. And obviously, much like the main social media pages, you can find that using the at eCrystal Palace group. And obviously I'm personally in the group, and I would recommend you do join the group, because on there after the game quite a lot of fans do go on there to post their opinion, and whether that be a decision throughout the game, whether it be how they thought all of the players performed throughout the game. And that's just so other people who are in the group, including myself, can see what you had to say about the game, and maybe comment whether we disagree with you, or even, you know, so we can post our comments on there so you can, you know, hear what we had to say. And, you know, even if you don't want to post your opinion on the game, if you did go to the game, like the Watford game where the Homestead fanatics were holding up a lovely banner which they made of Jason Puncheon, if you do have pictures of that or a video of the goal, you know, do post that on the group as well, because I'm sure there's other people who weren't able to go to the game so they can see what there was. But, you know, that's the main point of the Facebook group, is so other fans can talk to each other about things regarding the club. So if you do like that sort of discussion, that sort of opinionated view on the club, then of course the Facebook group is the best place to go, and I personally couldn't recommend it enough. But, you know, it is also another place where you can get the latest news. So we post news on Twitter, on our Facebook page, but also in the Facebook group we would post links to all these different articles. So like I said at the beginning, if you do want to keep up to date, then of course all of our pages are the places to go. And obviously if you can't find any of these social media pages using the at, then of course do go in the links in the description on iTunes, and on both iTunes and YouTube, and maybe on iCast as well, Acast. You can find all the links to all of our social media pages, our website as well. So if you do want to get involved and have a look on them sites, then of course, if you can't use the app, then use the links in the description below. Now obviously, if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, so you guys listening on iTunes can't do this, but of course do drop a comment below the video on what you thought about the game, and who you thought the standout player was for Palace. And that's only because we want to hear your views. So obviously in the podcast I give you my opinion on the game, but I want you to comment below whether you agree with my opinion, or just put something about the game which you thought from your opinion. And obviously, that's a good way for me to see what you thought about the game. But if you are on iTunes, you can still comment. Just go onto the Facebook group, Facebook page, Twitter page, and do message us to obviously get your opinion heard. But obviously in the last few weeks, if you have been listening, I have actually set a challenge to the listeners, and that is for them to list their player ratings from giving, rating the players' performances from 1 to 10, obviously with 1 being the worst and obviously 10 being the best. And obviously in the podcast I give you my player ratings, I rate how I thought the players performed. But what I want you to do in the YouTube comments is to comment below with your player rankings, just giving each of the players a rating from 1 to 10 about how you thought they performed throughout the game. And that is actually a good way for me, looking at the YouTube comments, to see what other fans thought about the performance of the players, and just to see what other people's opinions were, because I'm sure, especially with this match, and I've seen it on social media, there's a lot of discussion about what players should be given, what their rating should be. So do comment below with what you think. But even if you don't want to do the player rankings and you don't want to get involved with that, of course drop any comments below the YouTube video with anything you thought about the game, and then it may be a few decisions or a few substitutions. Just do comment below anything you thought about the game. And after the player rankings, I'll move on to the man of the match section. If you want to drop a man of the match below the video, just so we can see who you thought the player was with the biggest influence. But certainly, if you do want to get involved, do get involved by the YouTube comments, or if you are listening on your iTunes, Acast, and of course you can message us on Twitter and Facebook with your opinions there. But like I said, all of these accounts, Twitter, Facebook, they're brilliant places to follow us. And like I said, just near the beginning, if you do want to find these links, use the @equals_palace, or of course use the links below on Acast, YouTube and iTunes. So now to move on to the player rankings, starting off with Wayne Hennessy in goal, who I am going to give a 7. Started the game confidently, collecting crosses and showing greater communication. Made an excellent save in the second half, but also flapped at a long ball that could have easily led to Watford's equaliser. So obviously Wayne Hennessy here, I've given him a 7 because once again it was a very good game from him. And like I said last week, or the week before that, before the 2-week break we had, we've got to credit Wayne Hennessy for keeping a clean sheet, and this is our 3rd consecutive clean sheet in a row. And I personally can say that Hennessy, although he hasn't had much to do in these 3 win periods, he's certainly done what he had to do to give his contribution to the clean sheet, and certainly he done it here, and that's why I've given him a 7. And obviously in the last few games we've seen a bit of indecision with Hennessy. He hasn't really been as confident as he's been, maybe at the beginning of last season when he started playing. But this season, he hasn't had that much confidence. But in this game, right from the kickoff, he had confidence in himself. He's very tall, he's about 6'3". He should be claiming every cross, but in the last few weeks he hasn't been doing that. But in this game, every cross that was coming into him, he was getting high to get them. And also with the back four, whether that be something they worked on when they went on their trip to Morocco, but there was a better communication between Sakho-Tomkins, Ward, Slupp. All of these players were communicating well with Wayne Hennessy, making sure that all of the players in that defensive area knew what they had to do. So, confidence wise, his performance was good. The fact that he was finally getting used to catching crosses, and the fact that he's got that communication, these 3 things I think are crucial for a goalkeeper, and in this game it proved vital in the fact that we kept the clean sheet. But in my personal opinion, since the new goalkeeping coach has come in, yes, he's still made a few mistakes here and there, but I think his sort of performances having improved, and that's probably because the goalkeeping coach is slightly better than Andy Woodman, let's say. But obviously, talking about his performance as a whole, in the second half, he didn't really have much to do in the first half, but in the second half, he fantastic save. One of the Watford midfielders got the ball up in the middle, in the midfield, had a shot from about 30 yards. It was lovely curl on it, about to go into the bottom left-hand corner, or bottom right corner, sorry. Obviously, Hennessy done his little shuffle, got his stretched out far enough to get it with his left hand, and managed to get it out for a corner. So once again showing that yes, he's got improved confidence, but also he's still got that ability to use his height to his advantage to reach balls that were going wide, that were going into goal. Because if it weren't for Hennessy here, they're stretching to his utmost ability, it probably would have, scored the equaliser there. But certainly, you look back at the highlights because that was a fantastic save. It was a good shot from about 30 yards, lovely curling effort. But the save from Hennessy, the fact that he shuffled a bit, managed to get his arm out or stretch his arm out long enough to get the ball out. That was fantastic. And you know, that was fantastic in the second half. But the only downside in the second half, you know, yes, we know he's got a bit of indecision. There was a part of the game where he went forward right in the last minute to go and claim a ball. It was a long ball from the defender, I believe, of Watford. Long ball up to Deeney. Deeney went to get it, and Hennessy tried to punch it away. He got a connection of it, but that just pushed it down to the ground. A Watford striker, luckily, or Watford player, luckily hit it over the bar, but that could have easily led to Watford's equaliser. But I'm not really going to criticise Wayne Hennessy too much for this because, because, you know, looking back at the replay, Scott Down said, you go and get this, you go and catch this, and I'll block off the player. But actually, Hennessy goes to claim the ball, but Deeney's there because Scott Down hasn't, you know, pushed him or hasn't, you know, got him off the ball quick enough. But in that instance, you know, yes, Hennessy should be catching the ball, but when you've got a player like Deeney running at you full pace, and he did actually hit Hennessy to make sure he couldn't get the punch, you know, in that instance, you know, Hennessy, yes, should be catching it or either punching it further, and obviously Scott Dan should have that better communication. And, you know, I talked about Wayne Hennessy having good communication, but in that instance, he had the communication, but obviously Scott Dan was the one who messed it up. But certainly, a good performance for Wayne Hennessy. I think a 7's a fair result. Obviously, moving on now to the left-back Jeffrey Slupp, who I'm going to give a 7. Worked well with Zaha, providing defensive cover and attacking support throughout the match. So obviously, Jeffrey Slupp here came in for the injured Van Aanholt, who obviously got injured before the 2-week break, and actually his injury isn't very serious, so we could see him after the next international break. He could play against Chelsea. But certainly Jeffrey Slupp done nothing wrong throughout the game, and that's obviously why I've given him the 7. But, you know, I've talked about this with Van Aanholt a few weeks ago. You know, Van Aanholt was forming a very good partnership with Wilfried Zaha down the left, and that was exactly what Jeffrey Slupp did with Wilfried Zaha. You know, Zaha, primarily in the last sort of 3 games, he's been playing on the left, so the left backs had to form a good partnership with him. Jeffrey Slupp done exactly that throughout the game, you know, putting overlapping runs to Zaha, you know, doing 1-2 passes, you know, trying to get crosses to Zaha. He was doing everything he can to support his attacking player, but at the same time, he provided that defensive cover by using his pace to run back. And obviously, because Watford have got some fast attackers, you need someone with pace in the defence, and that's what Slupp brought to the side. The fact that when Watford were on the counter-attack, they were attacking us, Jeffrey Slupp could get back and defend, which he done very well. You know, a few headers, a few, clearances. But, you know, he done that very well. His pace was good. And, you know, yes, he worked well with Zaha, and yes, he done his defensive work. But, you know, his attacking work, forget the partnership with Zaha, but his attacking work overall was fantastic as well. And I talked about him doing overlapping runs with Zaha, but there's a few times where he had a little bit of burst of pace down the left flank, made a few yards, and then passed the ball to Zaha. So once again showing, yes, he can do defensive work by going back and covering, but he can also do attacking work where he can use his pace, sprint forward to find more space for the other attacker. But certainly, I think a 7's a fair result from him, a pretty good match from him. But based on the form we've seen this season, I think Van Aanholt will probably go back straight into the team, depending on his fitness. But certainly, if Van Aanholt isn't 100% fit for the Chelsea game, I certainly don't have a problem with Slupp, because what we've seen with this performance was a good partnership with the winger, good defensive cover, and obviously the attacking support as well. So now to move on to the first of our 2 centre-backs, and that is Mamadou Sakho, who I'm going to give an 8. It's little wonder that Palace haven't conceded a goal since Sakho arrived in the side. His no-nonsense defending perfectly suits Allardyce's approach. So obviously Mamadou Sakho here, since he's come to Palace, the 3 games he's played, we've kept 3 clean sheets. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because we've seen how much influence he has on the team and how his defensive work is so important to us. And you can see by the fact that I've given him an 8, and I gave him an 8 last week, and I think I may have given him an 8 or a 7 the week before that. So once again, these 3 weeks, he's shown us what a quality player he is, because he's performed to the best of his abilities. But once again, a fantastic performance from him, and maybe not as good as his first 2 games for us. You know, it wasn't as good, but certainly it was still, you know, a no-nonsense defensive performance from him. And, you know, I must query, you know, it's no wonder that we hadn't conceded a goal since Sakho arrived. The fact that when Alan Pardew was here, we had the likes of Dan and Tomkins and Delaney in defence, and, you know, they weren't really working. We were conceding goals, and you probably heard a stat in the 5 things we learned. I think it was maybe 5 clean sheets in about 38 games. And the fact that Allardyce has had he's had 3 clean sheets with Sakho in the side, it's just showing that Allardyce saw the weakness, brought the player in, and he's now starting to get clean sheets, something that Alan Pardew struggled to do. But, you know, I'm not surprised at all, because Sakho, at Liverpool, he was a class defender. Don't know why Jurgen Klopp got rid of him, but his quality now is helping us. And if he can continue to do this, I don't see why we couldn't, you know, go to Chelsea and maybe get a 0-0 draw, or maybe a draw, you know, 1-1, 2-2. Because, to be honest, if we manage to beat West Brom, who are very good, and they've been, you know, battling out in the top of the table with the likes of Chelsea, the fact that they've been able to beat teams like Arsenal, if we can beat West Brom, a team who beat Arsenal, they've gone toe to toe with Chelsea, I don't see why we could put in a very solid performance, concentrate on the defensive side of our game, and I don't know why we couldn't, you know, put a game to Chelsea. But certainly Sakho's influence on the team was fantastic, and like I said, no nonsense defending. When he gets the ball, he either tries to look for the space, tries to, you know, hoof it out of danger. When, you know, the players on, or when a team's on the counter-attack, he put his body on the line to get a tackle in, to get a block, get a header. He does all the things you would expect from a defender, and obviously that's crucial to us. And that's, you know, I described it as it suits Allardyce's approach. You know, Allardyce likes very physical, very fit players, and obviously Sakho is just that. And the fact that he's now got his match fitness, but also he's now got that sort of physicality to bully people off the ball and keep our clean sheets. But certainly, I think it's, since he's come into the side, the reason we've kept so many clean sheets now, or 3 in a row for the first time since April 2014, I believe it was, it's just credit to how good Mamadou Sakho was. But that just moves me nicely on to his partner, who I think's drastically improved since Sakho's partnered with him, and whether that would be they're learning off each other, but whatever it may be, it's improved both of these players drastically. But that is James Tomkins, who I'm also going to give an 8. Tomkins has been excellent alongside Sakho. The defender had his part to play and try and beat Troy Deeney. So obviously James Tomkins here, I've given him an 8 because, much like Sakho, he had a very, very solid defensive performance. I'm not really going to talk too much about that performance, but the good thing I really like about his performance was the fact that he formed that excellent partnership alongside Sakho. So we talked about, you know, since Sakho came in, what would be our sort of position, what would be our 2 partners at the back. It's 2 centre backs, and you know, there's been a lot of debate whether it be Scott Dan as the captain playing alongside Sakho, whether it be, you know, Scott might go to a back 3 and play Tomkins, Sakho and Dan. There's been a lot of debate about who would start, and actually it was very surprising when Tomkins got put up alongside Sakho. But certainly since them two have been partnered together, we haven't conceded a single goal, and that is credit to both these players. And I don't know whether it's because Sakho's improved Tomkins, or whether Tomkins has got a more confident player next to him, which has helped him to improve. Whatever it is, them two together has improved the team drastically, and also improved the form of Tomkins. But you know, in this game, Troy Deeney, he's a menace. He scored 4 goals in the last 3 games against Palace, so he was likely to score a goal, and obviously he scored the own goal for Palace. But actually, the fact that he didn't score in the opposite net is credit to James Tomkins, because that was his sort of main job, his main role. Obviously Sakho as well, but Tomkins, he was made to mark Troy Deeney, and he done that very well. A few good time tackles, you know, try and get clearances away, things like this, headers, all of these things put together just adds to his performance. And certainly, you know, a good defensive performance in him, in the fact that they managed to contain Watford's main threat to a minimum, and I don't think, you know, Deeney had any clear-cut chances, which is just credit to Tomkins and Sakho for the work they've done throughout the game. But certainly an 8 from him. Do comment below with what you think, and I am going to say now, both Sakho and Tomkins are nominations for the Man of the Match award, because in my opinion, giving them 8s, they had a fantastic performance. But certainly, if this partnership can stay fit for the rest of the season, I think it will really help us in this sort of push to get out of the relegation battle. But certainly a good performance from them. Obviously, now moving on to one of the surprise players in this game, who's drastically improved in our clean sheets we've got recently, and that is actually Joe Ward. And do comment below whether you agree with this, but I'm actually going to give him an 8. So the last year hasn't been entirely easy on Ward, with a string of poor performances and a collective failure from the defence. However, since Allardyce has arrived, Ward has shown what a valuable player he can be. It was a very good performance from him, especially when facing the pace of Niang. So obviously Joe Ward here, I've given him an 8, and I must say this now, when I wrote my article for Read Crystal Palace, I used these words, and I said his best performance, you know, his best performance all season. And I think we can say that, safely say that, because we're giving him an 8, and all this season he's got 5s, he's got 6s. He hasn't really put in a decent performance, but in this game, by far, in my opinion, his best performance so far this season. And obviously, you know, the sort of last year, he hasn't really been easy on any of the players, but Joe Ward especially, he's dipped a lot in form. He hasn't really been as good as he was the beginning of last season. He dipped in form, he's lost a lot of confidence, and quite a lot of fans were blaming him for the goals we were conceding. But actually, you know, I think it was a collective failure from the defence. The fact that we conceded so many goals under Alan Pardew is the fact that, you know, Alan Pardew neglected the defence, which meant that players like Ward suffered, and obviously that's why they dropped in form. But I must say this now, and I can't highlight it enough, since Sam Allardyce has arrived, obviously we know Sam Allardyce is a manager who's very good at, you know, getting a defence together and improving them drastically. Look what he done at Sunderland last year. But since he's come in, Allardyce, he's completely changed Ward, and he's made Ward, he's got the best out of Ward, and that has obviously meant, you know, we've seen how valuable Joe Ward can be to the side. And, you know, I've heard a few people say this, but, you know, he's in this game especially, you know, since Allardyce has come in, Allardyce has made sure that Joe Ward, instead of going up too much, so instead of going forward and trying to support the winger, because he knows that Joe Ward's primarily better at defending, he made sure that Joe Ward gets back. So rather than Joe Ward going up on the counter-attack every time and leaving us vulnerable at the back, Sam Allardyce has said to him, you know, stay back and defend for most of the game and occasionally go forward. And I think that's what's improved his performance. The fact that he's not concentrating on both defending and attacking. He's mainly concentrating on his job defensively, making sure he can keep the clean sheet. And then when the ball comes to him, if he has to go forward, he can go forward. But certainly that sort of man management from Sam Allardyce, making sure that he defends first, then attacks, has certainly improved the way he performs. But certainly, you know, he isn't the fastest player, but in this game, he was up against the pace of Niang, and he'd done that superb job. And that's just credit to him. Like with Sakho and Tomkins with Troy Deeney, the fact that Joe Ward kept Niang's sort of chances to a minimum is credit to how well he performed. So now to move on to our midfield, starting with the defensive midfielder, Luka Milivojevic, who I'm going to give a 7. Faced up to the challenge of Etienne Capoue and won. He provides a reassuring quality to Palace's midfield. So for Luka Milivojevic here, I've given him a 7 because once again, it was a very good performance from the new signing. And I must say, much like Sakho, his sort of introduction into the side has drastically improved the way we've played. And, you know, come the end of the season, if we do stay up, I think the new signings, as well as the sort of up in form from a lot of players in the side, would be, you know, that would be the reason for that. But Luka Milivojevic playing in that sort of defensive role just in front of the back four, giving them protection, he done that very well. And much like Sakho, much like Ward, he had his job, and his job was to sort of man mark Capoue, because Capoue has been one of Watford's main men this season. You know, he's got them assists, he's got them goals. But, you know, Luka Milivojevic, he was faced with a challenge of, yes, stopping him, being very physical with him, and he won that battle. You know, the fact that Capoue didn't really have that many chances is because Luka stayed strong, stayed very physical in front of the back four, and made sure that Capoue couldn't get past. And that's just credit to the professionalism of Luka and the fact that he can do that deep role. And, you know, he gives us a little bit of reassurance. You know, that's what we've missed under Alan Pardew. Yes, we were fantastic going forward, but the defence didn't really have any protection, so it was almost like it was always one-on-one with defenders. But since Sam Allardyce has come in, and obviously he's brought Luka into the side, because he's got that person in front of the back four, it means that the players can go forth and attack, you know, the front 3, maybe 4 players, and it means that Luka stays back just to give a little bit of protection before the player might get to the back four. And that sort of extra protection, that sort of, you know, that sort of physicality he's got to get players off the ball is crucial to us keeping the clean sheets. The fact that he's given that little bit of help to help with the defensive effort from the team. But certainly that reassurance, the fact that the defenders don't have to worry about going one-on-one with players because they've got this man in front of them who will try his best to get the ball off of, you know, the players. And in this game he had to try and get the ball off Etienne Capoue, and he actually done it very well, and he won that battle. But certainly Luka's role in the side is absolutely crucial, and in this game it was a very decent performance from him. And there was sort of one controversial tackle which he made throughout the game, which if you look back at the replay, you know, if you were at the stand and you saw it live, you probably would have said, yeah, that was a very good tackle. The fact that he got the ball away and he went into the tackle, it wasn't like someone like Rojo who put 2 foot off the ground and sort of slid into the tackle. He saw the player there, he sort of stuck his foot out, got the ball away, but obviously tripped the Watford player up. But if you look back at the replay, yes, it could have been a card on the other day, but if you look back at it closely and you see where the referee was, I can understand why the referee didn't give that as a foul, because you know, it wasn't 2 feet off the ground, so it's not as bad as some sliding tackles, and also the fact that he got the ball. The fact that, yes, he tackled the player and he fell over, but he also got the ball away and got a touch. So for that reason, the fact that he actually got the ball, I think it was a pretty decent tackle. But that alone, you know, the fact that just shows that how his defensive work is so fantastic, because, you know, the Watford player could have got through on goal, but he made that tackle, he stayed firm and obviously got the ball away. And then the ball went all the way up to the other side of the field. Wilfried Zaha done some little bit of skill, got pushed over, and obviously Yohan Cabaye scored from that resulting free kick. So it just shows how crucial that tackle was. The fact that he got the ball away, then we went up the other end, got the free kick, and scored from that. So just showing how good his influence is from the side. And like I said at the beginning, if we do stay up come the end of the season, I think his introduction, along with Sakho's, as well as the team sort of improving as a whole, defensively, that would be crucial to us staying up. But obviously moving on now to the two attacking midfielders throughout the game. Obviously I'm going to start with Yohan Cabaye, who actually got the assist for the goal, and I'm actually going to give him an 8. Cabaye showed ceaseless energy and tenacity. It was what Palace needed throughout. His set pieces were also a constant threat, and that led to the own goal for Deeney. So obviously, you know, Yohan Cabaye here, I've given him an 8, and I don't want to say it's his best game since signing for Palace, but certainly it was up there with one of his best performances since signing for us. And, you know, the first place to start really is, you know, his set plays. You know, throughout the game, he's sort of our designated set piece taker, so he was taking all of the set pieces throughout the game. But on this one occasion, you know, I talked about Luca making that tackle, the ball went up, Wolf got tackled, obviously we had the free kick, Yohan Cabaye stood over the free kick, Andros Townsend ran over it, Yohan Cabaye whipped a lovely curling effort into the area, and obviously Troy Deeney jumped higher than all of the Palace players, sort of, you know, turned his head and put a decent, if that was a goal for his team, that would have been a fantastic goal. The fact that he got the curve on the ball, the fact that he got it as far away from the keeper as possible, but you know, the fact that Yohan Cabaye could put in a delivery which puts the team under pressure to the extent where they score an own goal, is just credit to how good his delivery was. But you know, other than the set pieces, which were fantastic throughout the game, he put in some really, really dangerous balls throughout the game. One of them, he put a ball into the area, Sakho headed just over. You know, there's a few shots he had where the ball rebounded inside the box. He had a shot, it went just wide. So just showing that his set plays and shots were very good throughout the game, and obviously, crucially, the set piece led to the goal. But you know, forget all of that. You know, his energy, his tenacity, all of these things throughout the game were fantastic, and that's what we needed. We need someone who kept going until the end of the game, you know, kept giving their all to the team, and that's what he done. You know, he had that energy, he kept doing what he wanted to do for the team, and that's, you know, what he done throughout the game. And I think because Luke came into the side and he's doing the defensive work, it means Yohan Cabaye can go forward now and do his attacking work, and we're now seeing the best of his abilities. The fact that he's getting forward, he's now having shots on goal, whether they be on target, off target, the fact that he can get into forward positions now to take free kicks, all of these things which he hadn't done last season because he was playing defensive, he can now do this season, and we're actually seeing the best from him. But certainly his energy, his tenacity, all of that was fantastic. And you know, it is what Palace needed. We needed a player like him in a really dull game to give his all for the team, and obviously he done that. But you know, I can't highlight it enough. It's probably his best performance, you know, since signing for the club. And do comment below whether you do agree with that. But certainly, I think the fact that Luca's now doing a defensive role, it means that Cabaye can go forward. Now he can use this sort of creativity more, and obviously we saw that throughout the game with his set plays, with his shots. And certainly, if you know, yes, he still does his defensive work, but if he continues to play in this sort of attacking midfield role and keeps putting pressure, eventually he's going to get a goal, and obviously his influence on the team is going to be even greater. But you know, an 8 from him, a fair result. Obviously, moving on now to the captain, Jason Puncheon, who I'm going to give a 7. Worked so well alongside Cabaye now. Another great performance from the midfielder. So obviously Jason Puncheon here, there isn't really much to say about him because much like Cabaye, it was a very energetic and a performance which showed lots of tenacity. And you know, much like Sakho and Tomkins at the back, that sort of partnership worked really well. The fact that Puncheon can link up really well with Cabaye in that sort of attacking midfield role, and that sort of partnership led to us creating a few chances throughout the game. And albeit we didn't have a shot on target throughout the game, they still created chances for us to go ahead and score. And you know, like I said, there isn't really much to say about him because, you know, we needed a player who has the energy, who has the tenacity, and both Cabaye and Puncheon done that. So there isn't really much to say about the captain's performance other than that it was, you know, a great performance, and you know, he's just showing how crucial he is. And I really want Jason Puncheon to get a goal, because being the captain now, if he gets a goal, that would just sort of add to the pride he's got. And you know, we see he plays for the shirt. You know, you see all of the players celebrating after the own goal went in. It means so much to the players. So if it would be nice for the captain Puncheon to get a goal, because his performances and Cabaye's performances certainly warrant a goal, because they're putting in so much effort, so much pride into the way they play. So if they can continue with this form and have sort of more shots on goal, more set plays, if they can continue to do this, I obviously don't see any reason why they shouldn't deserve the goal, because certainly they're putting in the performances for that. Now to move on to the final 3 players of our starting 11, and that is the front 3 of Wilfried Zaha, Christian Benteke and Andros Townsend. Starting with the left winger Wilfried Zaha, who I'm going to give an 8. A constant threat. Could have won the penalty just 4 minutes into the game, only for the referee to wave it away. He did very well to soak up repeated fouls without it affecting his game. So for the Wilfried Zaha here, I've given him an 8 because once again it was a man of the match performance from him, and we know what to expect from Zaha now, with his pace, his skill, and once again he produced that on a stage. And despite him being booed by the away fans because they just have a very big hatred off of him, he didn't let that affect his game, and he had a fantastic game from an attacking perspective. And the word or the phrase I used was a constant threat, and he was to Watford. Watford couldn't cope with him, and at times it looked like Watford were playing with a back 6, so they couldn't cope with our sort of pace and our skills, so they had to resort to having 6 players at the back. And that is credit to how effective the likes of Townsend, Cabaye, Puncheon and Zaha are. The fact that the other team have to put so many players back because they can't cope with that constant attacking threat from the players. And we talk about the players, or we talk about the team, or Watford not really liking Zaha. The fans definitely don't like him because obviously he won the penalty in 2013 playoff final, and since then, because he's scored goals and he's won penalties against them since, there's been a bit of hatred between them. And we could have won a penalty just into the game, just 4 minutes into the game. I personally, looking back at the replay, it wasn't a penalty because it was outside the box, but it was a definite push from the Watford defender, so that should have been a foul right on the byline for Cabaye or Puncheon to whip inside, because Zaha was pushed to the ground. And obviously because all the Watford fans think he's a diving player, which certainly he isn't a diving player. If you look at other players in the Premier League and compare it to them, Zaha doesn't dive, and on this occasion he actually got pushed in the back, elbowed in the back, and you actually saw that on the replay. And the fact that the referee waved it away just sort of jeered up the Watford fans, but he didn't let that affect his game. Considering the fact that the fans didn't like him, all the players on the field, they kept fouling him because obviously he kept running past him, he kept winning free kicks for Palace, so showing how Watford couldn't cope with him, to the fact that they had to resort to constant fouls. And because he was getting fouled so many times, he hardly got frustrated, and there was only one time where he got frustrated, where he sort of got muscled with the ball and he pushed the player to the ground. But in that occasion, I can understand him getting frustrated because he kept getting repeatedly fouled. And I think the only reason Zaha didn't get booked for that sort of push to the ground is because the referee could see that he was constantly getting fouled because of, the players keep tackling him in a bad way. But certainly, we know what to expect from Zaha. There isn't really much to explain about his performance, but the fact that I've given him an 8 just gives you an idea of how much he was a constant threat. The fact that he kept cutting inside, having shots. There was 2 or 3 shots which, yes, they went over the bar, but if he had took more control, he could have gone in. The fact that he got into the box in the first place to have them shots, which is great. A few times he cut inside, put crosses in. The fact that he uses his powering runs to get into the box, all of these things, just shows once again how much of a good player he was. But certainly a good performance from him. Obviously, moving on now to Christian Benteke, who I'm going to give a 6. Clearly affected by his lack of goals, but Benteke's work rate deserved a reward. So obviously Christian Benteke here has come up for quite a lot of criticism of late, and that's mainly from fans and social media. But myself and Sam Allardyce, I think we can both agree that actually he has actually been playing quite well. And yes, he hasn't scored. He's only scored 1 goal in the last 13 games, and you can clearly see that it's affected his lack of, or his confidence. But actually, his work rate is fantastic in this game. Yes, he didn't score, but he was always getting into the right areas, even when the service wasn't right. He was trying to get involved with play so he could start up counter-attacks. There's a few times, in the second half towards the end of the game where he had the ball, and yes, his indecision and his lack of confidence cost him, but he was running on goal between, 2-on-1 with the defender. He could have tried and have a shot, but because of his lack of confidence, he couldn't do that. But the fact that he had the work rate to get on the end of the ball, to get involved with play, all these things deserve credit. And that's what, Sam Allardyce said. Sam Allardyce said, yes, it's not fantastic that he's not scoring goals, but his work rate, the fact that he's getting into positions, he's winning headers, the fact that he's, getting to the end of crosses, getting involved with play, all of these things are good about his game, and it's getting him more involved. And that's why I've given him a 6. Because yes, he didn't score and he didn't have that many chances throughout the game, but the fact that he was trying to get involved, having that work rate to try and get onto it, getting chances is fantastic. And like Sam Allardyce said in his press conference, once he scores one, he'll probably score loads more because that sort of confidence will go back. And we've seen, you know, in the training videos when the team went to Morocco, we've seen with a few shots he had on Saturday, he's got the quality there. He just needs to try and sort of rediscover that form he had. But certainly, good performance from him. Do comment below what you think about it. But I personally think, you know, yes, the service hasn't been fantastic to him, but what service he has got, he's tried to do what he can with it, and I don't think we can criticise him too much for that. Obviously, moving on now to the final player of our starting 11, and that is actually Andros Townsend, who started the game on the right wing, who I'm going to give a 7. Not as effective as Zaha offensively, but his defensive work helped keep Palace in the game. So obviously Andros Townsend here, I've given him a 7, because much like, you know, Zaha, not to the same extent as him, but he was a constant threat to the Watford defence. You know, he kept putting drilling runs down that right flank, kept putting in crosses for Benteke, and ultimately was acting as a constant threat, you know, for Watford. And although he wasn't as effective as Zaha in the fact that he had a few shots, the fact that he cut inside, the fact that he got a few decent he didn't get as many crosses as Zaha, he still had a pretty decent game. And, you know, yes, it wasn't the best game from him offensively from sort of a shot perspective, because we normally know he's pretty good at shooting, but in this game he didn't really look to shoot, he was looking more to cross. And obviously if he does that more and gets his sort of shooting, sort of that balance right, I certainly see him improving. But the thing really to highlight is not his offensive performance. The reason I've given him a 7 is, yes, he done alright offensively, putting in crosses, but defensively he was fantastic. You know, he was tracking back to partner up with Joe Ward, making sure that he got cover to Joe Ward if he wasn't there. He used his pace to get back and, you know, put tackles in. And there's a few times where he sort of has a sort of physical battle with a player, manages to steal the ball off of them and run down the wing. So just showing how good his defensive work is. But like I said, although he wasn't as good as Zaha, you know, getting shots away and, you know, getting into the area more, he still was looking to supply players. And if he can do that more to Benteke, as well as, you know, still trying to have shots, I certainly can see his performances improving. But certainly a 7 from him. You know, some may disagree with this, but I certainly think, although he wasn't as good as Zaha, his sort of attacking threat, his crossing ability was still needs to be credited throughout the game. Obviously, moving on now to the 3 substitutions. I'm not going to give any of them ratings because they came on quite late in the game. But, you know, Scott Dang came on for Tomkins, who took a slight knock. And, you know, it wasn't like a complete injury, but he felt his sort of hamstring sort of tightening up. So instead of taking the risk and, you know, making the injury worse, took him off, put Scott Dang on. He was only there to do, you know, just to give that defensive cover, and he'd done exactly that. And he was actually preparing to come on anyway, so if Tomkins hadn't have got that hamstring injury, he probably would have gone to a back 3 just to sort of solidify that defence. But certainly he came on and he'd done what was exactly needed of him. Bukayo Saka as well. You know, Cabaye had a very good game, but he went off because he was sort of lacking a bit of fitness, that energy he had at the beginning of the game. But certainly Sakho, you know, he brought on for Cabaye. He made a few decent runs using his physicality, his pace to get into the box, but no real chances. And Damien Delaney, he was sort of the player who came on in place. You know, he came. So if Tomkins had have stayed fit and he hadn't have got that knock, Damien Delaney wouldn't have come on. But because Scott Dann came on in the place of Delaney, you know, in the place of Tomkins, we still went back to that sort of back 3 formation with Sakho, Dan, and obviously Delaney coming on, and that was just to provide a little bit more cover, and ultimately that helped us see the game out. But certainly all of these players came on the pitch to sort of give that little bit more solidity towards the end of the game. And obviously all of the players done that. But just to go over the game really, you know, we talk about how good the defensive performance was, you know, the fact that the manager Sam Allardyce's plan, his defensive sort of plan has actually come into action. He's finally seen the effects of it on the side. That's just showing in this game, you know, the fact that we're now playing with a purpose. We know what we've got to do defensively, and we know what we need to do offensively to get forward. And also, you know, we know that Watford were quite a physical team, but Sam Allardyce set the team up defensively to deal with that. And at times, you know, it showed that we had sort of a new resilience. We found again that resilience to, you know, get something from the game. And, you know, although it isn't pretty all the time, the fact that, yes, you may say we park the bus, the fact that we pass the ball back and we're not going to go forward unless there's space, and the fact that we're, you know, not going to put any dangerous crosses in because we don't want to have a risk of losing possession. But in this game, we kept it cool. We done the simple things defensively right. And although it wasn't pretty, you know, it wasn't the best sort of attacking game in the fact that we didn't really have lots of chances, it was still effective. And if it means we see long balls and we see a very park the bus style game, and we see, you know, attacking when we have possession, you know, if it's effective, I don't have a problem with it, because it might not be the best thing to watch, but if it works and it keeps Palace up in the Premier League, I have absolutely no problem with it. And just the final thing, really, just to end on a stat, you know, we have 3 clean sheets in a row, and I might have mentioned this earlier on in the podcast, but the fact that Alan Pardew's side only had 5 only had 5 in 38 games, that's just credit to how Sam Allardyce has got the defence together and reorganised them, made sure they have that organisation and that confidence back. And the fact that we've had 4 clean sheets in in less games, significant less games than 38 games, just shows how Allardyce's work with the defence is working. And you know, the fact now that Allardyce has got the players to realise that they need to respect the point, and they need to go out in the game with the mentality to get a point, and then to push on if the team are weaker than them, to go and get a goal. But you know, the main basis is you start off trying to go out there and draw the game so you can respect the point, and now the players can actually see the value in that. You know, it's not all about attack to win the game. You've got to try and be defensive, trying to hold up for the draw, and then build on that defensive performance to go forward and attack. But certainly, you know, a good performance from the whole team, a much better defensive performance. And like I said at the beginning, you know, we've got Chelsea up. There's a reason why they're champions elect. But if we can carry on a defensive performance like this, I don't see why we couldn't hold them to maybe a 1-1 draw, because certainly we've got the quality going forward with the likes of Zaha, Townsend, Benteke, Cabaye. You know, we've got these players going forward to try and attack and damage Chelsea, which we've done in the past. But because they're the champion, or they're champions elect, you're going to expect it to be a hard game. But certainly if we put in this same sort of amount of physical, this sort of defensive performance, I obviously don't see a reason why we couldn't hold them to a draw. But certainly if we do get a result in 2 weeks' time against Chelsea, that will be a bonus. So now to move on to the Man of the Match award. But before I do that and give you my Man of the Match and who I thought had the biggest influence of the game, I'm now going to give the results of my Twitter poll. So obviously if you do want to vote in next week's Twitter poll and have your opinion heard on who you thought the best player was, and obviously the player with the biggest influence in the game, then of course you can go and vote on the Twitter poll, which you can find on my personal Twitter account at the CPC Podcast. So as you guessed, you know, the podcast isn't run by Crystal Palace, which they do sometimes run Man of the Match polls. But if you do want to vote in the Man of the Match poll to have your opinion heard for the podcast, go and follow my Twitter account at the CPC Podcast. So do give me a follow on there, because I do post regular news updates, but also because I post the Man of the Match poll just to get your opinion on who you thought the best player was throughout the game. But in this game, you know, there's 2 players that miss out on the sort of 4-man shortlist, and that is Joe Ward and Andros Townsend. And the only reason they missed out is not because, you know, the 4 players above them that I picked were better than them, is purely the fact that there's only 4 nominations on Twitter, and I personally thought that these players had a bigger influence in the game than these players did. You know, Townsend was very good offensively, and obviously Joe Ward done a job defensively, but the 4 players I've picked I thought had a little bit more from the game, or gave a little bit more than obviously these players did. And obviously the 4 nominations were James Tomkins, Mamadou Sakho, Yohan Cabaye and Wilfried Zaha. So I'll start off in last place with 7% of the votes, and that was James McArthur. Closely followed up with 19% of the votes in third place, that was Mamadou Sakho. Closely followed up again with 33% of the votes, that was Yohan Cabaye. And in first place in the winner of this week's Man of the Match poll with 41% of the votes, so quite, you know, much closer than it was in past weeks, but that was Wilfried Zaha. So congratulations, Wilfried. You don't get a trophy or a certificate, but you do get my sincere congratulations on what was a very, very solid attacking performance from you once again. But just to go through why I've given or put these 4 players onto the shortlist before I go on to talk about who my Man of the Match is, you know, James Tomkins, he was excellent alongside Sakho, so that's why I've included both of them in there, because their partnership together was fantastic defensively. And, you know, his job was to mark Troy Deeney. He done that very well. The same with Mamadou Sakho. He had that partnership with Tomkins, and that's why I put him in there instead of Joe Ward, is the fact that them 2 together were very good. They were worked as a unit, so I thought you've got to put them on there together. But Mamadou Sakho, no nonsense defending, done what Allardyce wanted him to do, and suited his approach very well. Yohan Cabaye, I talked about it already, playing in sort of his attacking midfield role. He had so much energy, tenacity throughout the game, and you know, the set piece that he whipped into the area caused Troy Deeney to score the own goal. So just saying that how he can put teams under pressure with these fantastic deliveries, and obviously caused players to score own goals. And then Wilfried Zaha, I'm looking at my notes here, all I wrote for Wilfried Zaha was a constant threat, because that's what he was, you know, running down the flank, cutting inside, having shots, using his pace, using his skill. Everything from the game, or from his game, was fantastic. And if you do go on my Twitter account, like I said, at the CPC podcast, I have retweeted the video of some of Wilfried Zaha's skills, and it's absolutely amazing, bamboozling, let's say, to see all these skills, step overs he's doing. But certainly all of these players do deserve credit, as does the whole team, for keeping the clean sheet. But these 4 players stuck out for me because of their defensive work, their attacking work as well. But, you know, there's only one man who's going to win, and there's no debate about this. And, you know, it was close between Cabaye and Wilfried Zaha, but I'm going to give it to Wilfried. So congratulations, Wilfried, on winning my personal man of the match for the game against Watford. But certainly the only reason I gave it to Zaha instead of Cabaye is, yes, Cabaye had the energy and tenacity, and he had a few shots, and obviously his cross led to us conceding the goal. The only reason I'm going to give it to Zaha is because Zaha was a constant threat. He kept attacking Watford, kept winning, or kept putting pressure on Watford, kept using his skills, his pace, and that's why I've given it to him instead of Yohan Cabaye. And what we must remember is, yes, I give credit to Cabaye for obviously putting in that fantastic delivery, but we've also got to remember that Zaha was the one who won the free kick in the first place. But certainly a good performance from all of the 4 players here, and obviously the 2 players that missed out, and obviously the whole team as a collective done very well, put in a shift to obviously keep the clean sheet. So now you've heard my match report, player rankings, and my man of the match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce, Luka Milivojevic, Jeffrey Slupp and Jason Puncheon following the game.
Luka, great win today. Must be a good feeling in the dressing room.
Yeah, it's amazing. After three games in a row we won, and we are very proud on ourselves. We are happy. Now we go for a national team break, also happy, and this is something what is very good for one team.
And I suppose just as important as the win was the clean sheet today. That's 3 in a row now.
Yeah, it's true. This is the most important, to have clean sheet in the game. When you have this, after you are 50% close to win. This is not easy, especially in Premier League, but we're doing well and we will continue. We will try.
Was the key today that it was a whole team performance? It was very hard to pick a man of the match today.
It was a strange game, I think, with a lot of fights, duels, a lot of set pieces. I think the fans today, they didn't enjoy a lot to see quality football, but sometimes the games are like this, and we are very proud to win this kind of games when you need to put head, legs on the 50-50 balls, and I think today the best player was the team, if I can say it like this.
And finally, the fans today, noisy again.
Yes, the atmosphere was great, and we are very proud to have our fans in front of us, and they push us, and we are happy when we give them win at home, especially at home. And next game we have against Chelsea, we go with confidence, and we'll see.
Jeffrey, a great win. It looked like hard work today.
Yeah, it was a difficult one. You know, we knew what was going to come from Watford. We knew it was going to be a physical, tough game, but you know, I think we deserved that win today. You know, we created some chances, and you know, it's a bit unfortunate for them with the own goal, but I think the goal was always coming from us.
Was it a bit of a surprise how many defenders they had in their starting lineup?
Yeah, I think that their game plan might have been to try and lock off our wingers. You know, they knew how dangerous they are, but you know, Wilf and Andros did a great job. You know, taking on their fullbacks and stuff. So I think their game plan didn't really work out too well. But you know, I've got to give us credit. Obviously, you know, it's another clean sheet and another win, and you know, just look forward to the next game.
Unfortunately, you got injured a few weeks ago, so you've had to wait your turn. But do you feel happy with the way you slotted in today?
Yeah. I think, you know, I slotted in well. You know, we've kept clean sheets in previous games where I've not played in, and you know, it feels nice to come in and start the game from the beginning and get that clean sheet and win as well. And
good. What's Wilfried Zaha like to link up with down that wing?
Yeah. You know, we said before the game, you know, as long as we're talking and organising, you know, we'll have good games. And you know, when you got someone of that quality and ability on your wing, you know, all I have to do is give him the ball and he does the rest. You know, it takes so much pressure off everyone else when you know that he's going to create or take on his man pretty much every time he gets it. So you know, it's great to have him in the team. And
a little bit of a 2-week break now, chance to get back on the training ground and work together on that teamwork again. Yeah. I mean, you know, rest is always important, but you know, we've got a few lads going away with internationals, and then you know, we just want to make sure that everyone comes back firing and ready to go.
Jason, 3 wins on the run, no goals conceded. Are things coming right at the right time?
Yeah, I think everything's sort of coming to fruition now. in what we're doing, and I think everyone's pulling the plug, and now we're really showing our ability and that grit what we've always had.
It was scrappy out there, wasn't it? Especially the first half. What type of game was it to play in?
It was scrappy, definitely. I thought we would always have the upper hand with the quality we had, and we thought we just had to stay in there and sort of that one moment, it's our own goal, But I think we deserved that overall.
28 points now on the table. Games coming up against Leicester and Burnley. Can your home form keep you up?
Yeah, it kept us up before when we stayed up, and I think we've always made Selhurst Park a fortress, and we sort of went away from that, and now we're getting back to that, and I think you saw that today.
Sam, 3 wins, 3 clean sheets, fantastic progress.
Yeah, 4 wins out of 6, all 4 wins, clean sheets, and all that talking to the players about how important it is now I think made them realise when they go away tonight just how important it's been for this particular period in trying to claw our way out of the bottom 3 and get safe. So I think all of them realise now what I was saying was true, and I think because of the new players and our change of training techniques, new staff, we have made an impact on the players, and the players who are already here have got better just recently, and the whole team looks very, very good in and out of possession. The out of possession work now has increased dramatically, has given the work they're putting in, the rewards are the result for their out of work possession, and because that gives them the ball more often, and then they've got talented players going forward, particularly Wilf today, to help us try and get a victory. And because of his abilities, he got the foul, and because of the foul, the quality of the ball from Johan Cabaye was the ultimate difference today, and we deserve that goal. There's no doubt about it.
Are you pleased with how mentally they're coping with with seeing out games as well?
Yeah, because we knew. I mean, look at the size of Watford today. I mean, a monster side. I mean, the back 4. The smallest lad is 6'2" at right back, and the biggest one's 6'5", and the goal is 6'6". Capoe's 6'3" in midfield, and Deeney up front 6'2". So towards the end, we threw on. James got tight hamstrings, but we threw on Damien Delaney and we threw on Scott Dan to react that going back, because they threw everybody up front and every ball was getting pinged into our box. So we tactically, put that headed power in the back 5 to see the game out, and we saw that game out very, very well today. Apart from one little slip when Wayne came and dropped it, and we got the break we deserved when the lad just put it over the bar. It would have been a cruel blow for us had they scored that goal, because we really should have made it 2 at some stage today with the chances we created after we'd scored.
And finally, there's a 2-week break now before a crazy April, but we've got a good platform going into it.
We've given ourselves a great platform for Chelsea, because we've won 3 games on the trot, and it's a game we can go and try our very, very best, and if we don't get anything out of the game, it's predicted by everybody, I think, that Chelsea will beat us in 2 weeks' time. But we will go with the confidence that we got now and make a real game of it, I hope, and give it our best shot, and if we get some out of that game, it would be outstanding. That will really boost the confidence, but it'll be a really, obviously, very tough test, and the toughest test we'll have probably had this season. But at the moment, the lads' confidence and the way they're playing, hopefully we can give them a good game.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Sam Allardyce, Luka Milivovic, Jeffrey Slupp and Jason Puncheon had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Watford. But make sure to come back next week for more post-match review for the game against Chelsea. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace.